This is the Alabama Orthopedic Clinic D1 Training High School Football Preview Show.
Another week of Friday Night Rivals here on UTV 44, and tonight we've got a matchup. St. Paul's going up against Baldwin County. Jim Cox, Stan Brennan here with you. Week 3 of the season already. Once it starts going, like it's on. It goes quickly, doesn't it?
That is a fact, things starting to sort themselves out a little bit. As you start looking at region standings and what teams have done to this point. No big shockers to this point, although Daphne looked really good last week.
Yeah, I think that. Obviously, there's a lot of shockers that maybe came out of that game, but so impressive was that win by Daphne that we did last Friday night, and you talked about it. Really a coming out party for the viewing area to see one young quarterback, Trent Battle, at Daphne. What a performance he put on.
He was so composed. Nothing in the game was moving too quickly for him, and with his feet, with his arm, making the right decisions which one was appropriate. And on the other side, there's trouble on the hill, because that's 2 weeks in a row that they've not only lost games, but they've really gotten rolled. So you have to wonder what Ben Blackman is going to do, needs to do, is going to try to do to kind of right that ship.
There was never any fluidity to their offense that we've used to see, been seeing so many years there under Coach Blackman and others, and they just couldn't. It just couldn't seem to really get it going in either of the first 2 weeks we've watched.
No, and Daphne's always a good defensive team, and Spanish Fort just has not really gotten that running game going at all, and it's really costly.
Yeah, and of course, unfortunate forfeiture that Daphne had to have afterwards in that game. That, of course, is the story that so many people have been talking about. Just an unfortunate incident. Dr. Chris Patton back here with us to talk about other unfortunate incidents. Okay, so good to see you again,
good to see you,
Doc. ACL. That's the one injury that, no matter what level, you just don't want to hear those 3 letters together talking about any type of athlete.
That's right. It's unfortunately a common injury we see, particularly we see it in football, of course, and we see it in other sports, particularly volleyball and softball and soccer. And so it is one of the things. In fact, a lot of the patients, first thing they do, they ask you, is it my ACL? That's the one they want to know. And so fortunately, with the technology and the physical exam today, we can give them an answer pretty quick.
And it seems like it's it's more of a non-contact, or it seems it happens a lot as a non-contact injury as well. I'm sure contact can be a part of it, but sometimes it's just a simple cut or a push-off, something like that, right?
That's right. That is the most common mechanism, is a non-contact pivot maneuver. Say a wide receiver going out, doing his route, making a cut, and it gives away. So that is the most common mechanism injury. And so, unfortunately, but we see it also in hyperextension injuries and landing. So it's a gymnast coming down. We've seen some of those nasty videos. And so there is a lot of ways you can do it, unfortunately.
There's no video on this, but I'm very explosive when I'm getting out of the sofa on my way to go get a beer watching a game.
Really
so can something like this happen nearly anywhere? Someone doing yard work, somebody, and then how long is the rehab afterwards?
Sure, I've been amazed to see some mechanisms of injury in someone tearing their ACL from some really things that are really, I thought was pretty minor, and certain falls, slipping down some steps or stairs. Usually the rehab can be anywhere from 6 to 9 months. And a lot of it is when the athlete actually gets confidence in itself, because we rehab the knee and get all the muscles stronger. And so, but it's in generally at least a 6-month rehabilitation process.
And I know, you can't specifically, or you're not the trainers here or anywhere aren't saying, hey, do this so you don't blow out your ACL. But there are things that athletes and just everyday people can do to be stronger to help protect themselves, right?
Sure, that's a big area of interest right now, is ACL injury prevention. And we are able, particularly here at the D1 and other facilities, can get you in a certain exercise program to get certain muscle groups, particularly the hamstring, stronger to help reduce the injury rate of your ACL.
I would think, and we'll wrap it, I would think the biggest challenge once it happens, though, is just the mental aspect of just an athlete knowing, I've got 6 to 9 months of this ahead of me to get back to where I was.
Right, that is a big part of it, but we work them through it, and they gain their confidence back. And so But that's a big aspect of it.
All right, well, hopefully you don't blow out an ACL during football season.
You know, it's one Saturday after the next.
All right, Doc, good to see you again. When we come back, we'll get you ready for the Baldwin County Spanish Fort matchup. We're going to hear from Coach McDaniel on the Baldwin County side as we get ready for tonight's Friday night rivals here at St. Paul's. Friday Night Rivals here on UTV 44. Matchup tonight on Old Shell Road as St. Paul Saints playing host to the Baldwin County Tigers. Good to see Baldwin County again this year.
Oh, yeah.
We made the road trip up there last year, and it was a great, we just talked about one of those great atmospheres for a high school football game. So now we get to see the Tigers
Between the hedges.
Yeah, it was spectacular. Coach Nathan McDaniel here, and Anthony Mix, quarterback, with us as well. And all right, Coach, 1-1 on the year. And so let's go back to week one. Saw a Murphy team going up playing a 7A squad, and I think that kind of announced that is a much improved Murphy Panther team that we're going to maybe get a chance to see later on during the year that you matched up with.
Very much so. They've really improved. They've got some kids out of the hallways that have really helped their program. And, you know, going into it is kind of difficult because they've got a whole new staff, and so you have film from their previous schools, but you don't really know what they're going to be doing. So, you know, the first half we were just kind of filling it out a little bit. So, but you know, I thought our kids competed hard. They played well, but we left a lot of opportunities out there on the field, and felt like we controlled the game the whole time there to the very end. And so, so we really challenged our offense, really all of our kids after the first week, and I feel like they really responded well going into Gulf Shores.
Yeah, got the big win, 63 points on the board last week at Gulf Shores. And Dan, I know we saw this young man a little bit last year as well.
Yeah.
We're all excited to see him when we kick this one off tonight.
It was almost kind of a coming out party when we were there. I think that's when Anthony really started to emerge as a freshman.
It was after that game that we made the decision as a staff that he would be the starter moving forward. And we had a kid that was a junior that we felt like, you know, or had earned the opportunity to at least be the starter. And AJ at that point took over week 6 and had a phenomenal second half of the season, and haven't looked back since.
Had to be a good, nice confidence builder. You know, all the time you got last year, action you got on Friday nights to come in knowing you were the starter for this season.
Yes, sir. Definitely had me ready for this year instead of just playing like 5 games of varsity after not playing at all.
Yep.
Well, how about, speaking of a coming out party, last week down at Gulf Shores, what did that feel like to have that team under your control with so much success after success? Had to feel great, huh?
Definitely a confidence boost after coming off the Murphy game.
Look at this matchup going up against St. Paul's. Coach Steve Mass, it's funny how you see coaches interact. Like Coach Mass walks in and those big hug between those two, pats on the back. Coach Mass, one of the most popular coaches among coaches down here as well. But you also know you got your hands full for this one, right?
Absolutely. We're just talking about Coach Mass. First of all, every Saturday morning, win, lose, or draw, he's probably the first call I get. I admire him so much. He's a dear friend of mine and a mentor. So the opportunity to go and compete against him is always a lot of fun. He does an amazing job with his team. They're going to be very well coached. They have one of the biggest offensive lines that I've ever seen in high school football. And so we've definitely got our work cut out for us, but I think our kids are up to the challenge and they're ready to go play.
Nate, can you talk about your team and where you've seen improvement and where you hope to see more improvement?
Sure.
And how you see your team, you know, what's the script in a game like this against St. Paul's? You kind of know what they're going to do.
Sure.
What do you need to do?
Sure. Well, you know, what we've talked about all week is being able to control the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And anybody says that in a big game, but
Sure.
That's the honest to God's truth. You have to be able to control the line of scrimmage and stop the run and try to force teams to be one-dimensional, you know, which is that's a tall task against a team like St. Paul's because they have such a good offensive and defensive line. So if we can run the football and stop the run on the other side and then, you know, open up some opportunities for AJ and the offense, I think that we have a very good chance of being successful. If we can, it'll be a long night.
Talk about, I know you got some playmakers on the outside as well. Talk about some of the guys that you like to get the ball around to help put up those big numbers on offense.
So we got more like number 2, the senior receiver, Martavius Crook, sophomore, just like me, Taquilla Mims, and a couple more. Got a freshman coming in too this month.
Got to have some playmakers too. It's one thing to have a playmaker at quarterback, but you got to have somebody who he could get the ball to as well.
We're blessed to have some kids that can really run, and I tell you, our offensive line does a good job. They're not the biggest in the world, but they do a really good job. They play really hard. But the thing that I've been most impressed with our skill guys, and you don't see this a lot with skill guys, is they're very unselfish and they don't mind blocking that out there on the perimeter. And so I really look for them to do that and continue that process tonight as we play.
You know, if I was a guy on the outside or even one of the bruisers inside, I would always be very motivated to block because AJ's got the ball.
Absolutely.
And with AJ having the ball, if I can just hold that block a half a second longer, we may turn a 3-yard run into 30.
Yeah, absolutely. AJ, every time he touches the ball, it's kind of like PlayStation or Xbox back in the day. It's the opportunity for him to extend plays is always there.
Right.
And there's very few times within a game do we get hit for negative yardage because his ability to extend plays and make something out of nothing. So it's always fun to see that.
A year later, we can't wait, right?
Oh, yeah, excited to see him. And you talked a little bit about the size up front for St. Paul's. What do you see defensively? What do you need to do to try to slow them down because they've got some experience on that side of the ball as well?
And we've got a lot of kids back on the defensive side as well. Our defensive line is really talented, and so again, just the ability to control the line of scrimmage and allow our linebackers and our safeties to run, and then in throwing situations, the ability to get after the quarterback. So it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
That's why it's on TV, right?
Absolutely.
That's on TV. We
Game
get
of
to
the
see
week,
him,
man.
Just as a sophomore,
Yeah.
get to see him as well. All right, so you've heard the Baldwin County side of things. When we come back, we're going to hear from St. Paul's, and we're going to get a look at the Saints. They also come in with a record of 1-1. They'll be at home tonight, taking on these Baldwin County Tigers. We'll tell you more about it coming up right after this. Friday Night Rivals here on UTV 44. Matchup on Old Shell Road tonight, 6A style. Jim Cox, Dan Brennan as the St. Paul Saints play host to the Baldwin County Tigers. Steve Mask, head coach of the Saints. Reggie Bracey from the Saints as well here joining us. And so, you've kind of had an eventful first 2 weeks of the season. 2 crazy games that you've been involved in. A battle against a rival in UMS, and then just a wild one last week against Park Crossing, right?
Yeah, it has been a little bit ups and downs the first 2 weeks, but we played 2 really good teams the first 2 weeks. Obviously UMS is on a pretty good roll, and congrats again for them for a good victory. We didn't play great, but they played good, and we don't take anything away from them. And then Jim, we beat a pretty good Park Crossing team last week. They won that region in Montgomery last year. They've got a lot of talent, but the thing I'm most proud of is that we were behind in that game 3 times, and we kept hanging in. And we found a way to win. So that takes care of some of the bad taste in your mouth the first week, to see the character of this team to come through and to persevere and beat a really good team now.
And sometimes it's not just the fact you got to win, but it's what you can pull out of that. Like you're saying, the resiliency, battle back, and those kids had a tough year last year, the ones that are back this year, and just having that, especially early in the season, I know that's something you can store that one away to use a lot this year, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna beg to differ on a tough year. I think winning 7 games in this region last year, with what we were faced with a lot of different adversity things going on. So I'm going to defend that class that graduated a little bit. They had some things thrown at them pretty fast, and some other circumstances going around. And
some would say unfairly.
I'm not going to classify it. In fact, I was probably just as satisfied with that team last year as any team that we've had that's played 15. But I don't mean that disrespectful. Please, you don't mean better than that. But it's an uphill battle for us every week, and the character of these kids and the leadership that they do week in and week out can't do anything but make us proud of them.
Well, I know you're proud of your Wisconsin-like offensive line. How in the world, and you're going to the Big Ten, so we'll get to you, but you get to see a Wisconsin-like line now, and it's in your own locker room. That's some big guys.
There are some big guys, and boy,
Coach McCandless says the biggest in the history of high school football. That's
the
what he
biggest
says.
in the history of St. Paul. I'm not sure about high school football. Coach back down there been around as long as I have. I can take us to places to show us some offensive linemen. But we're big, but it just sort of happened overnight. To be honest with you, Brady's always been big.
Sure.
But all of a sudden we looked up and Peyton Maples has gained 35 pounds, and Ivan Schultz has gained 25 pounds, and Zach Reiner's gained 25 pounds, and then Lucas moved in, who's already a big kid. It means we're feeding them well or we're not making them work hard enough. So I don't know what it is, but we have got good size up there, and that's for a change, that feels pretty good.
Yeah,
and you were
not known for that.
Yeah, you were talking about leadership. You were talking about the importance of leadership, and I know something that's what Reggie brings to this team. We've watched him play the past couple of seasons as well. Just talk about what he brings in addition to being able to be out on the field making plays, the intangibles.
Well, Reggie's been playing for us as a ninth grade. He's basically a 4-year starter and had some tough luck and missed the last part of the season last year because of an elbow injury, and you could tell the drop off from an intensity level and then just that character thing that he has. Everybody just wants to gravitate to him, and sometimes he tries to do too much. We have to sort of rein him back a little bit because he wants to be everywhere. But he's such a pleasure to be around, and when you talk with him here, you're going to see why he has such an infectious personality and has worked hard to make himself a really good player. Now he's got good DNA too, but he's such a great kid to be around. Academically, athletically, and leadership-wise, he's part of the law firm. I was telling Dan, we have a law firm every year, and this year it's Bracey and Green, and so they both outspoken too on the team. So I'll let him explain that to you a little bit more.
The law firm, Reggie. So it's just two of you that help kind of.
Yeah.
Nobody else has made partner yet.
Yeah, me and Jay Green. Me, I guess, as the leader of the defense, and Jay, of course, is our QB, leader of the offense, and. So when the team has something that they feel like should go to Coach Mass, they bring it to you guys, to us, and we usually discuss it out and take it to Coach Mass and see what he has to say about it, and it usually goes over pretty well like that. So it's a well-oiled machine.
That's cool.
There's a lot of trust put in players as well to police the locker room a little bit and not how things go. Talk about just getting ready for this season, how much you're looking forward to this season, and then of course you got big plans after St. Paul's as well.
Yeah, of course. So looking forward to this season. The off season was great. I was set out a lot, of course, of last season because of an injury, so this was well anticipated. Plus, it's my senior year, it's just great. I committed to Iowa, of course, over the summer, so that getting recruitment kind of out the way, like I can to focus on the season was a great choice, and we've been working so hard this all season. So now that the season has started, we can see how it's been paying off.
I get the Big Ten Network. I'll be watching Reggie.
I grew up 2 hours from Iowa City. I know what you're in for.
Yeah,
And,
congratulations.
Oh,
Thank you.
what an honor. I mean, just an honor to be able to go there, and also the academic side as well.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Well deserved. And Reggie could have waited around, and he had a couple of committable offers at Indiana in the Big Ten, and then several in-state schools were sort of messing around with him a little bit, and he made a great decision for him. And it's funny at the office to hear Coach Dan Drum, who's a big Nebraska guy, and they go back and forth, and so that's a lot of fun. But he will be a great college student athlete, and that's what he will be.
That's awesome.
You tell Coach, you know what the N on Nebraska helmet stands for, right? No. Knowledge. Tell him that. He'll like that. I didn't say that. It's just somebody else. I have no.
heard that.
I didn't.
Attaboy, Jim.
Just
Stir it up.
That was just it. Reggie, thanks for being with us. Coach, stay with us. We got our final segment coming up as we get ready for kickoff between St. Paul's and Baldwin County coming up right after this on UTV 44. On the set between these two coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Man, it's just that, boy, you just have to keep them aside. Hey, Coach was talking about you being a mentor. I know Coach Curtis talks about it, and we'll get to the silly questions, but as a coach who's been around a while, we'll just say there are you, Terry Curtis, others who really take that part very seriously in helping young coaches grow their careers.
Well, first of all, quit beating around the bush and just call me old and get it over with.
Well,
I mean, Ben Thomas calls me a veteran. Now here you are, a guy who's been around a while. Let's face it, I'm old.
Yes.
Okay.
Not breaking news here,
I
Coach Mass.
I do take it serious because when I was coming through, I worked for a guy who is still my mentor today. I talk to him every Friday night, and there were a lot of guys that said, Steve, you really want to look at doing some things this way. But remember now, when I was coming through, we didn't have to deal with cell phones or Twitter or all that kind of stuff. So if you wanted the question and wanted by you, either went and saw him, you called him on the telephone. And so Nate and I have become good friends.
Yep.
You know, I have a lot of respect for Nate. I think he is a rising superstar in this business, and I've told him that.
I agree.
And we've talked on the phone several occasions. He's called and said, "What do you think about this?" And you know, I tried to get him to call me this week, but he won't call me. And I was going to get him some things what I thought he should do this week, but he won't do that.
Yeah, he's not taking any.
He's not taking any calls this week.
Not
but
asking for suggestions
no,
this week.
No,
All right, let's
but
get to
I do.
enough
I do
of a
take
love
it
fest.
serious.
He's a good guy. All right, let's get on to this. Dan, here we go. Bren in, Bren out.
Bren
Dan
in,
Brennan,
Bren out.
Peruvian hairless dogs
Okay.
now roam Lima's pyramids, have regained their place in Peruvian culture. Are you Bren in or Bren out on hairless dogs?
Let's be out on hairless dogs.
I'm out. Anything that looks like a
Out.
rat.
I had a Siberian Husky that lived with us in Alabama for 11 years. I could
They
use a
call
little
them
less
rats
hair.
in North Alabama.
That's right.
A woman had her entire world turned upside down this week after the results of her DNA test revealed that her husband is actually her first cousin.
Okay.
Dan Brennan,
Yes.
taking the DNA test. Have you done? Bren in, Bren out.
Have I taken the test?
Yeah, you know, you swab
No.
it, send it in. No?
Bren out.
No?
never
No?
taken
Out in North Alabama, it happens all the time.
I haven't taken it in. My family has. I was a little nervous to take
mean,
it. This is
come on, let's
Steve
get real
Mask.
now.
Have you ever seen the other Brennans?
I
We're a
was
clan.
asking. A doctor in Vietnam shared a video of an unusual situation when a patient with ear pain had a large bee burrowing inside its head.
Yeah. Have I ever had a bee inside my head?
No. Would you watch the video of the bee being removed, Dan Brennan? Brennan
Bren out.
No.
Oh, I'd absolutely. watch
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely was.
Pimple popper?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
I'd
I'll
watch
watch that stuff.
Had to be on History Channel.
As well. All right. Rotisserie chickens were being sold this week at the first ever Costco in China. Dan Brennan, you have a rotisserie at the house to make your own rotisserie chicken.
I do not. Bren out.
We do not.
Ralph's sells great chicken.
How do y'all not have a rotisserie and cook on the grill? That is.
We work, Jim.
I'm sorry. See, the old man here. Union County Sheriff's Office in
You
Union
finally
County,
got it off your chest.
Union County, Ohio, of course it was Ohio, is looking for help identifying a vehicle that was used to steal a roller coaster last week.
Well,
I'm
what's
not going
the
to ask you
question?
if you would steal a roller coaster,
Right.
because we know the answer. Riding roller coasters. In or
Bren
out?
in, Bren
Bren
in.
in?
Yeah, oh, I'll be in.
I hate them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not
hate
a
'em.
not a chance. New Mexico man facing charges after he's arrested committing a cold crime on a hot day. He stole ice cream. He stole 22 cases of dilly bars from a convenience store.
Okay.
Dan Brennan, not going to
Yeah.
ask if you'd be felonious on the ice cream, but have you ever been hot enough to be tempted to steal ice cream from a store?
No, Bren out.
Wow.
No comment.
No.
I'm gonna feel something cold. It won't be ice cream.
Coach Mask, Coach McDaniel,
Dilly bar.
kickoff comes up next. St. Paul's in Baldwin County. Friday Night Rivals here on UTV 44.